wuwa 2.7's banners are looking stacked, so today I'm here to tell you who'll get you the most bang for your Astrites. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Let's kick things off with Galbrena. She's going to be a very strong fusion hypercarry DPS. She's going to be based around echo skill damage, and it's all around going to be a great pickup if you're somebody that's in need of a strong carry. Now I will say, if you've already invested a lot into triple fusion, then you don't really need her, because we already have so many fusion units in the game right now. But if you're somebody that's lacking in the fusion department, then she's likelier to be a good pickup for you, especially because 2.x DPSs all have a really good track record of being very powerful units. Another nice thing is that she's not going to be reliant on any specific 5-star support. It appears as if she's going to be quite self-sufficient. I would assume that Qiuyuan is going to be her best in slot, but because she's shaping up to be more of a traditional hypercarry, I believe that means that generalist buffs are going to be quite good on her. I can see Mortefi being a pretty good teammate for her, and I imagine that Mortefi Shorekeeper is going to be a perfectly free-to-play friendly team. Otherwise, if you don't have the full complete triple fusion core, you can even use 2 of them and then use Galbrena as your next fusion, with Galbrena in the front, and then other fusions in the next 2 slots. I'd say that's pretty cool, because it means that you have genuine options. You're not going to be restricted to any one specific choice of her, and there is something for everyone, so no matter what stage of the game you're at, and no matter your investment level, there's something that you're going to be able to use for your Galbrena. She's not extremely restrictive, and she's not a negative status character, meaning that you don't need anything specific for her. She appears to have very unique gameplay, and is also going to have ranged damage, and in general, being a ranged DPS just generally means that you're more comfortable to play in a wider variety of situations, because we have plenty of enemies that move around at this point. So that is always a very pleasant convenience. All around, she is going to be a great investment. However, I just don't think that she's really a necessary one. You do need 4 teams for TOA, but if you already have some strong teams and you already have fusion covered, then you don't really need to get Galbrena. Do I think she is going to be strong? Yes. But you have to consider that we're basically spoiled for choice of DPSs at the minute, and fusion is not really an area in which we were previously lacking. Now, if you're just joining the game, or you're somebody that doesn't have that element covered, then I imagine that she's going to be a good pickup for you specifically. But for a majority of players that have already invested into a couple of fusions, I actually think that Galbrena is quite skippable in your case. Obviously pick her up if she's your favorite waifu, but if you're somebody that's looking at this from a meta perspective, or you're wondering if she's safely skippable, I do think that you don't really need her. Obviously, there's no such thing as a need in Wuthering Waves, I mean, maybe Shorekeeper, but in general, there's not really such a thing as a DPS that you absolutely require. But either way, if you're somebody that's wondering if she's on the more skippable side, then yes, I do think so. However, she is looking to be strong, and she is looking to be a good pickup. I would say that you could definitely invest into her without worries, but just be aware that if you already have some fusions, she is far from necessary. But it is nice that she has many teammates, it is nice that she seems to be a pretty good carry, so all things considered, a good investment, just not one that you need to make. I'm going to be putting her into A tier for the value rankings of this patch. She is a strong character, and she is going to be a good DPS, I just don't really think she is necessary. Next up is quite the broken character, and that would be Lupa. She is really good, and she is amazing for basically every fusion in the game right now. Yes, whenever you pull for her, you are very much hyper-focusing on that specific element, but she gets that job done so well. I would say that if you're somebody that plays fusion characters regularly, you should 100% pick up Lupa. She is going to be worth your time. I genuinely think that she is just going to continue to be good for basically any fusion character down the line. There's obviously her triple team, which is the second best Whimpering Wastes team in the game right now, with number 1 being Furlova. Obviously nobody is going to reach Furlova's level in Whimpering Wastes, that's just impossible, but being number 2 is still very impressive. I should also add that it's a very easy team to play. The rotation is literally just 1, 2, 3, swap one into another. I'm sure you could do some quick swapping shenanigans if you so desired, but you just don't really have to do that, and you're going to get ridiculously good performance considering the low skill ceiling. And these are a lot of high skill ceiling characters we're talking about here. You don't even have to play them that well in order to get the most out of them, provided that you're all playing them together within the same team. Genuinely, Triple Fusion is a fantastic team right now. It is extremely strong, and it is going to completely cover your needs in that aspect for ages. Not to mention that just investing into this team in general is a good choice, because it leaves you with Changli, one of the most flexible characters in the game if you're able to utilize her correctly, and if you're willing to learn quick swapping. Brent Wuthering Waves with his signature weapon is another really flexible character too, and while Lupa is less flexible, the amount of teams she works in, considering her niche, is pretty nice, and she works in some good teams too. She works well with Encore, who's a standard DPS, not exactly the strongest around, But she's still a relevant character from 1.0 that people are still using to this day, so that is indeed relevant, especially whenever you consider that it's technically a free-to-play friendly team option for her. Otherwise, you can even stick her in a Galbrena team, such as Lupa into Mortefi into Galbrena, or even her into Brand into Galbrena, stuff like that. There are multiple different ways that you can do this. Speaking of which, she also heavily enables DPS Brand. Yes, you can still play the Pirate Lad as a main carry with Sanhua, but it's not going to be anywhere near as strong as if you just use Lupa, because her outro skill is absolutely fantastic for the guy. Very, very good teammate for him, and a must pull for basically any Brand main. If you're a really big fan of him, I absolutely advise that you get Lupa, because her kit is basically perfect for the guy. Definitely a heavy recommend. She's just all around a very powerful, well-balanced unit. Her buffs are fantastic for fusion characters. She does so much for these teams. And I would say that if you're really, really invested in this, you should get Lupa. She is just genuinely worth your time. Fantastic pickup, well worth it. And I would say that if you're somebody that doesn't really have a lot of fusions, see if you have Encore, because then it's still going to likely be worth it for you. I will say that her value is relative to whether you've invested into the element or not on your account, so I would say that this ranking is subject to change based on your account, but assuming that you have at least one Fusion 5-star, she's going into S tier for the value rankings of this patch. Then we move on to my beloved Qiuyuan. Alright, now as you all know, I am a very big fan of this character. However, I would say that his value is nothing more than good. I will say he is good. Don't be mistaken, he is a good character. He's just not really one that you need, and he is definitely on the more skippable side. He's going to be able to provide plenty of buffs, and he's mostly going to be helping out Galbrena. And because he revolves around echo buffing, he's going to end up being good for Furlova as well. So I would say that if you're interested in echo characters, or just characters that deal damage via echoes, he's going to be a pretty good investment for you. Now, is he necessary? I would say he's definitely on the more skippable side, like Galbrena. I do think 2.7 is giving us two characters that you don't really have to get. He is definitely a more niche, buff-centric second slot teammate, and while it is a shame because I was personally hoping he would be a little bit more flexible than this, he's still not a bad unit by any means, and I wouldn't want you to think otherwise. Don't think that he's not worth it whatsoever, because if you have his respective teammates, then yes, he will be good. Now, if you don't have his respective teammates, I just wouldn't invest into him at S0, especially considering that Galbrena has plenty of other options that you're able to effectively use. However, if you're really big on Galbrena and you want her best in slot support, he's gonna be worth it for you then. Or if you're just like me and you're starved for good-looking men in this game, then I would say he's also worth it in that case. I'm gonna put him into A tier for the value rankings of this patch, but below Galbrena. He's just a little too niche. We'll have to discuss it more down the line. But he's certainly not bad, I would like to say that now. He is good if you care about the echo characters. Then we have Zani. So this is difficult because how much I'm going to recommend her is going to completely depend on whether you have Phoebe or not. And I'm going to give her two different rankings depending on whether you do or do not have Phoebe, or whether you intend or intend not to pull her. I think basically everybody knows Zani's situation by this point. If you don't have an acolyte to stick with her, she is going to feel infinitely worse. There is no two ways about it, she is just going to feel really bad to play. Yes, you can use Spectre Rover, yes, you will clear with it, that doesn't mean it feels good to play. That doesn't mean that it's not a ridiculous downgrade from just using the acolyte. This is unfortunately the thing that every negative status character is born with. The need to have their 5-star enabler, and because wuwa just doesn't really produce 4-star characters, there is not really any hope in sight of us getting a 4-star replacement for her anytime soon that would even be able to replicate half of her performance. Phoebe is ridiculous. An S0 R1 Phoebe can provide up to 100% damage amp for Zani specifically, through both her signature weapon and the 100% that is just within her kit. It is absurd. Phoebe-less Zani did get an upgrade recently of however, I still just don't think that Zani is a worthwhile pull if you're not going to get Phoebe with her. Think about it like this, there is a very logical investment path that you can take here. If you get Phoebe first, you can farm a very nice Eternal Radiance set for her specifically, and then eventually down the line put her on Moonlit Clouds and give Zani that Eternal Radiance set. Phoebe is a character that very much can be used as a DPS on her own. Zani, on the other hand, oh dear. Yes, you can make it work, but just because it works doesn't mean that it feels good to use, or that it feels smooth to use. She was 100% designed around the Acolyte's existence, and that is just a fact of life. Now, if you do have the Acolyte, you get a very strong character who's amazing in Whimpering Wastes, amazing in TOA, very nice in multi-wave, and is just all around a very comfortable, strong, easy-to-play DPS that I personally use a lot. She's amazing sequence nodes, I personally have her at S1 R1 on my own account, and she is ridiculously strong and just feels great to use in general with her big meaty attacks. However, undeniably, you really want Phoebe there. S tier into the value rankings of this patch if you have Phoebe, one of the best DPSs in the game. B tier for the value rankings of this patch if you don't have Phoebe. Just don't bother. I generally think that 2.7 is quite a skippable patch all around because there are so many niche characters that are really good in specific situations, and then with Zani, it's either you have Phoebe or you retire. So generally, a lot of situations in which you can skip. However, either way, there's still plenty of value to be found here. How about yourself? Will you be pulling? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hopefully this video was able to tell you who'd get you the most bang for your Astrites in wuwa 2.7. This has been Juice, signing out, and I already know who I'm going for.